Hello, and welcome to the Ethanol Producer Magazine podcast. I am your host, Katie Schroeder, and we're coming at you live today from the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop located this year in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm so delighted to have with me today Tom Kozadowski and Paul Hagan, who are both sales engineers with Apache Stainless. And we're going to get to dig into all of the ins and outs of ethanol tanks. And I'm really excited to chat with both of you today. So, just to get us started, could you tell me a little bit about your background in the ethanol industry?
Sure. I've worked in the ethanol industry, well, basically since it started in 2000, 2001, that area. I've been in tank fabrication um, since about 1990, you know, working mostly through the engineering department, but also in leadership roles and sales roles. So, yeah, and then that time purchased and fabricated a lot of stainless steel tanks, pressure vessels, shell and tube heat exchangers. So been involved in the design and the fabrication of those. So
Awesome.
And then I'm Tom Kozlowski. I started back in '89, so I was in place Factory Mutual. I started with, and we did loss prevention consulting. So I got into the national board inspection of the pressure vessels, and then did that for about 9 years. Apache, who I'm working with presently, was one of our clients.
Oh,
So then left Factory Mutual, got into a place called Spincraft. We did some spin forming and things like that. And then got into Apache about 3 years after that. And then I started at Apache in 2000. So I've been there about 25 years. I was in the engineering group and just started on the sales about a year ago. But I was I worked up from the just a project engineer, project manager, started managing the project engineers, and then got into sales when our sales engineer retired. So
nice.
I like this. I like this end of it.
Great. Well, we're glad to have both of you with us today. All right. So, thanks for sharing about yourselves. Getting into our topic of the hour, what are the types of stainless specialty tanks used in the ethanol industry that Apache has supplied to producers?
we make pressure vessels, like I said before, shell and tube heat exchangers, which can be used in evaporation or condensation, things like that, in different areas of the plant. We also make columns, fermentation columns. Um, Basically, we've also made API 650 tanks, which are generally, just holding tanks with flat bottoms and shallow cone tops. We can really make any type of vessel that goes inside an ethanol facility that is made out of stainless steel or higher grade. So
Yeah, we got anything into the AL6XNs, the AL20s, the Hastelloys if they need that. But typically on the ethanol end of it, it's a lot of 304 stainless. So that's
Okay.
where we're at. So Apache stainless, we build anything out of stainless.
right,
That's
Nice.
pretty
right,
much our motto.
yep,
And
Great.
then we have the ASME stamp rating. So we have our ASME UM stamps, for the pressure vessel side of it, so that people need that pressure room for their safety and the compliance of that.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
and then what we do is the customer usually comes to us and says, I have a need for this size tank capacity, and then we'll work with them as far as the size, how to size the tank, and it's supported, the wind loads, the seismic loads, all that. We design for them for that, for the size and the pressures and the temperatures that they need, and then we would build them from that for them.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Awesome. All right. So, thanks for talking us through the differences between the different tanks you supply. What are the important qualities in a tank manufacturing partner for procuring ethanol industry tanks and vessels?
Um, as far as the fabrication goes, I think you need a company that can support bigger fabrications. So you need to have somebody, you need to have a fab shop that has large cranes, has a big roll, to roll the shells, is able to fabricate heads and, good quality fabricators, that can put the thing together and provide a good quality product.
Yeah, I consider it an art. Our
Really?
welders are artists.
Yeah, very much so. Welding stainless is not an easy thing, so it is really important to have those craftsmen that can put these things together.
Mm.
and working with the customers as far as the when getting their capacity, but then also how to get it to their plant. Sometimes there's just challenges in getting, when we're talking about vessels that are 50 feet in diameter and a couple hundred feet in length, well, you got to turn corners and you got to get under bridges and things like that. So it's just dealing with those challenges as well as the other thing.
Nice, nice. So with regard to scoping a project, what are important considerations that the tank manufacturer can support?
There's a lot of different things that happen at the front end, and it kind of depends on what kind of customer we're dealing with.
Okay.
Some customers know, some producers know exactly what they want. So they'll come to us and they'll say, we need this pressure vessel. This is the size. Please just go ahead and quote it. And it's fairly simple. Others might come and not know exactly what they want, or maybe a little more concerned about cost. So we can work with them and say, yeah, we could make a 10-foot diameter vessel by 50 feet long, but if we go to an 8-foot diameter vessel by 60 feet long, it'll save you $20,000 in freight, stuff like that. So, we're very cognizant of costs and want to help the producers lower their costs for building their plant. So, we can work with them with different thicknesses, and different sizes. So.
Right.
Yeah,
Anything you want to add?
and it's basically working with them for their pressure rating and temperature rating. The, the diameter of the vessel can impact thicknesses greatly. So if they start going narrower, it is better than going wider if they have vacuum per se.
Right.
So it's just working through that with them and their capacity constraints, where they're putting in the plant or where they're having outside. It's all depends your wind loads, all that stuff, working that through with them. So it's a lot of communication in front. The more communication you have, usually ends up better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
So
For sure.
It sounds like a really collaborative process.
It
yes,
is.
it
It
is.
is.
Mhm.
All the way through the project, really, because a lot of times, especially for greenfield projects, there's a lot of changes that happen throughout the life of us fabricating this tank. So we may have to add things, and it's really important that you have that good relationship with the producer, so we can get together and they can let us know and we can take care of them.
Awesome. Awesome. What are some of the design standards that drive the ethanol industry?
ASME Section 8 is generally what we design to.
Okay.
Not everything is designed to that. I was talking a little bit earlier about the flat bottom shallow cone top tanks. Those would be designed to a code called API 650, American Petroleum Institute. And we do that type of design work as well. But primarily ASME Section 8 Division 1. Sometimes they are registered with a national board. Sometimes they're not, but generally we'll follow that code for the design of the pressure vessels themselves. When it comes to supports, it's a little bit different.
And then we get into heat exchangers. We'll build the TEMA, so that the TEMA has its standards with ASME. So you have the how you do the tubes, how you roll the tubes, weld the tubes, all that comes into play. So a lot of people follow TEMA as a guideline as well.
Okay, awesome. Great. Thanks for explaining that. So could you also explain the importance of collaboration between the tank fabricator and an ethanol producing facility?
The collaboration is huge, working with the engineering team, just on both sides as far as, okay, yeah, you can move this nozzle over here, but if it gets too close to this nozzle, you got problems. So it's having that communication back and forth, so that their piping people can get the nozzles in the right spot, their pressures that they need for the thicknesses of the tank, and all the different changes. And also when you're trying to get your high lead time stuff, like for us, we want to make sure we get the heads on order, the manways on order, length of the shell materials, because everything's, at the end of the day, when you start the project, you want to have all the stuff there and no changes.
Yep,
So if let's changes start after we got the release, that's another more communication on how to work that through and manage that through.
Yeah.
So much happens before the purchase order is even placed. A lot of these details are worked out ahead of time, and And which is why it's so important that, and we really, what our philosophy is to take care of our customers. So, we really hone in on making sure they're getting exactly what they need. So
Yes.
that upfront communication is paramount.
And keeping the costs down.
Yeah.
Because that helps everybody.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it's communicating back and forth to try to get them what they need, keep the costs down, and then everybody's happy.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Great. Well, this has been a great conversation, guys. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
You can reach us at ApacheStainless.com.
That's an important note to add on. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. And thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. We'll see you next time.